That could have been edited, but that's...
Welcome everybody. The reason for the meeting today is to discuss the dues, income, and fees from the Janus versus ASFCME decision that came out in June, and the impacts of union cards and why we've been continuously going out and asking everybody to sign union cards, and the impacts that it has on the local level. We did this with the CBAC last year, and it worked really well, so we're going to record it again so that way we can share it and all the membership can see it at their own leisure. I'm going to try and go through these things as quickly as possible. If there's a question, please ask. I have no problem answering questions on this. The transparency is important. If you have the question, chances are somebody out there that watches on a video is going to have that same question, so it's good to have questions, but I don't want the video to be too long to the point where we don't have anybody actually watching it afterwards. So to get right to it, 2013 card signings at elections. We were informed, as I was nominated to be elected for president, that per union rules that everybody must be a dues payer in order to vote. So at all the election stations that we had at all the facilities back in 2013, we had small little cards. If you were on a fees payers list, we had you sign a card. That card was the initial card that you signed back in the academy to allow them to do withholding on your direct deposit. That way, all the dues were essentially collected in one location. So when we had you sign a dues card, it gave you the right then to be a member and gave you the right to vote. Vote for elections, vote for contracts, vote for CBAC. All these things are important to a dues paying member. If you wanted to be a fees paying member, you could be at any time by selecting to be a fees payer. A fees payer was somebody who did not want to be part of membership, did not want to vote in elections, did not want to vote for contract, did not want to have any part of voting for CBAC. Those individuals would get the benefits of the contract, the benefits of the CBAC, and the benefits of the local, but would remain fees payers, paying a fee for the negotiation costs and all the other costs to running the union. So with that being said, in 2013, during the 2013 elections, we had hundreds of cards that were signed to convert people from fees to dues because they wanted to be members. They didn't want to be fees payers. We took these cards back to HR and payroll. Payroll said that they were going to go into the computer system and correct it. We addressed it at HR labor management meetings several times. There's a problem with the system because somewhere, somehow, people continuously get changed from dues to fees. Lo and behold, they said, don't worry about it because it's no impact to you. You still get the financial part of it. The impact to us, we kept on saying, was that we have to continuously have people sign cards and annoy them by having them sign more cards in order to vote. So that moves us on to 2015. We recognized the problem was there. Again, we brought cards to every single one of the polling stations. Anybody that was a fees payer signed a card to become a dues payer again. Once they became a dues payer, we allowed them to vote for elections for the local. We once again took those cards, hundreds of them, to payroll and HR to be turned in, to be converted back to dues payers because these people wanted to be dues payers, not fees payers. Again, we brought it up at labor management meetings with HR. HR said, it's some kind of error with the computer system, whether it's core or whatever computer system we're using, but it's no impact to you financially, so it's not a problem. We continued to maintain that it is a problem, that fees payers is showing something that is not true. It's showing that a lot of people don't want to be part of a union, don't want to have membership in a union, when in actuality they did. So it's taking away their constitutional right to say that they wanted to be a member of a union. As of July 2017, the pay stubs were discontinued and all members were forced to retrieve their pay stubs from a computer. Now everybody's been through this process, everybody knows this that's a DOC employee. It was a painstaking process that we went through. We argued it with HR. There was no process by which that we had through contract that mandated that they had to give us a pay stub paper in hand at the facility. We tried to set up systems for the individuals that didn't have computers or a way to access it other ways to be able to get it from their HR person at the facilities. To date, we still have issues getting our pay stubs. We still have issues getting to the system. We acknowledge that. We have nothing contractually to fight it, but we try to make sure that everybody maintains an ability to be able to see their pay stub. And we tell them if they can't come here, we'll help you. The reason why I think this is important is because that's the only way that any member is going to know paycheck to paycheck whether they're a dues or a fees payer. The only way that a member is going to know is by looking at their pay stub and it says Local 391D or Local 391F for a period of time up until this year. 2017 card signings at elections. We went through this whole process again. Hundreds of people signing cards at the polling stations that we had in every facility. People frustrated because they're again on fees payers lists. People frustrated they have to sign another card to be a member. And we, standing there as people who are at the polling booths, trying to explain to the member, it's not our fault, we're trying to keep track of it, we're trying to make sure that we maintain a good, healthy list. You're gonna have to go back and double check on your pay stub to make sure you become a dues payer. In that process, in 2017, we addressed HR once again about the fees versus dues and turned in several hundred more cards. And I'm talking several hundred, 200, 300, 400 cards. In the same year, there was a changeover in payroll. Payroll became a part of fiscal, no longer a part of HR. They got a new director. They got subsequently another new director. And payroll is now in a different avenue totally. They're in a totally different system. So what we ended up with was a new fiscal director that said, specifically, when the Janus decision came out, if there were people that were fees payers, they would no longer be paying anything. So if I was a member that wasn't able to check my paycheck on a regular basis, that paycheck all of a sudden, I would have nothing listed on my pay stub, as to where somebody else who was still listed as a dues payer would have said Local 391D, $24. So we had several hundred members that were dropped off automatically. Why is this so important to everybody? Well, the reason why it's so important to everybody is because in our Constitution, for the Local 391, and it's upheld by the Council's Constitution and by the International's Constitution, that if you're not a dues-paying member for 12 consecutive months, you are not a member in good standing. If that's actually held to account, that means that all these people that were dropped off unfairly, don't even have knowledge of being dropped off, now don't have membership in the union and don't have any rights to any of the benefits that we have additionally by the union. So, the union is still providing hundreds of cards that we've recently had signed. So since that date, we've had people call and say, I'm upset, I'm not paying dues, I want to be paying my dues, I want to sign a dues card. We have had over 300 cards signed and sent to payroll since that date, electronically. The payroll director originally had refused to accept these copies. We had sent them over electronically. He told me that he can't accept them electronically. Through a couple of arguments and an OLR decision that day, we were able to get him to accept them electronically. The problem that I had with doing it any other way, I could hand them to him, just like we had in 2013, 2015, and 2017, and nothing happens in the computer system. It's just handing them cards. Another local said, well, I've been getting receipts. Every time I hand in the cards, I get a receipt. Well, there's no receipt that details how many cards you gave them and whose names were on those cards. You're just, again, handing them a pile of paper. Doesn't mean that you're going to get anything back for it. By electronically sending them through an email with this printed scan, I have documentation as to what date and time it was sent to them, and a receipt back from them saying received, printed, and handed in the payroll. So on 7/2, July 2nd, 2018, 208 cards were sent to payroll. Since August 1st, we have sent 400 additional cards to payroll. To date, only 150 cards have been converted in the computer system. So, 2018, July, we missed dues from over 500 members. We had 1,000 people pay dues and about 500 not pay dues. In July, we started receiving those dues, 500 fees payers, which equates into about $3,000 per pay period for the local that we lose. Each member pays a CO7, step 1, $24 per constitution. Our local constitution. ASFCME International gets about 20% of that. Council 4 gets about 55% of that. And we get the rest. About 25% or $6 of your dues stays here in the local every pay period. On to August's missed dues. In August, we have a total of 6 pay periods now to date that we've lost dues on, these cards that have already been sent. Total is equaling over $15,000 in lost dues to our local personally. Our next dues increase, according to our Constitution, is scheduled for July 1st, 2019, when CO7, Step 1, increases to $24.84. This will be the first dues increase for our local since July 1st of 2015, when it went from $23.30 to $24. ASFCME International and Council 4, dues increases are not based on pay raises or on contract. They're increased yearly. This reduction in local dues, by increasing the council's dues and the international's dues, it reduces our dues that we get here, has happened several times since 2015 without us raising the dues. So people would ask, you lost $15,000 of income from the state. Why not sue the state? I'll tell you why. We sat down with the international and the council and looked at it from a perspective of, what are we going to get? So if we were to be successful, and I think we would be, we have a good case, to sue the state would then have to fork over the money to us that they didn't withhold. But just as on many occasions, if we have overpayments in our system, the state has the ability to go back over your whole employment to take any overpayments, which would then allow them to go back to every one of those individuals and take out a lump sum of what we didn't get for dues. And I think that would be a worse impact on the local when we turn around and take $144 or $168 one-shot deal out of somebody's paycheck to eliminate a overtime possibly, or put their mortgage on hold because we withheld a bunch of dues. So the reason that we decided not to go after them financially that way, but we did file a state prohibitive practice complaint on behalf of all 3 locals in MP4 and Council 4 to try and get it to stop faster. Get these cards done on a more reasonable basis. So the reason why we went through all this today, put out the texts, is because I want everybody to know that we're going to continue to be asking for people to sign cards. And we're going to be continuing to ask people who are dues payers to give a new card. And the reason being is we want to have cards on file here. We want to have a card on file for every single member. We want to have a card on file at Council 4 for every single member. That way, the next time somebody decides to go and change you to fees, we have a card that says they can't change you from dues to fees unless you say that you want it to be changed. Questions? Comments? Concerns? Yeah?
Approximately like when every year these cards will be redone, do you know?
So once we have a card done, we can keep it on file for the employees.
For a year.
For the employee's career. If an employee wants to then come to us and talk about being a fee payer or opting out, that's a different discussion. But once we have the card, they're in for good. They're in the union. They're a member. And they stay a member. So we won't have to then go and get a card from you next year again. Once we have a card on file, we're good.
Well, that's the question from a lot of the staff at the facility is that, and to me it's a concern, because when you go give them a card and you say, I got some repetitions right here as it is, and I won't get a card like, I just wrote this out twice, and they're getting upset. They think that these stuff has the personal information on them, like address and phone number, and they actually think that these cards are being misplaced and lost. It's now people are reluctant to fill this out again, and we have to deal with that burden at the facility.
So we're in the process now between us, the international, and the council to getting an electronic form.
Okay.
So there's an electronic form already available for Council 4, but it's not available to be able to submit it to the agency yet. There's no way to get it from there to the agency. So many of the ones that you see that were printed out, we went through onto that form on the Council 4 website, typed it out, printed it out ourselves, and then gave it to you to go have people sign. That process is already there. We just don't have a process yet to get that from them to the state.
My second question regarding, this is just a question that comes along from the membership every time that I go fill one of these out with them. One of their second concerns regarding this is that, okay, I'm filling a card now, and the last 3 paychecks, there was no money taken out. Is that money all going to be taken out afterwards?
No, and that's what I was addressing from the beginning. I know if we sued the state, that the state would then give us a lump sum, and if they gave us that lump sum, they'd be going back after all those people that didn't pay dues to get that money back. That's not going to happen. And as a matter of fact, we have discussed already that we will make a motion at a membership meeting to waive those fees for those people and those individuals, that they maintain members in good standing, because it was by no fault of their own that they were dropped off.
Okay, that answers those 2 questions.
Any other questions?
So in order to determine one's status within the union, they can look on their pay stub and see where their fees are coming out on the local 391D.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the only one that will be withheld. There won't be a local 391F anymore. There's only going to be a local 391D, and that's just for dues for that one local. And it does behoove you sometimes too, because there's been instances where somebody's paying dues to 2 different locals at the same time. There's also been instances where they've paid double dues to 1 local. So it does help to look at those periodically to make sure that they're withholding the dues properly. And if anybody is in one of those situations where it's been double dues for a long period of time, we're going to go back and make it right and refund the money if that's the case.
Are we going to notify the entire membership of the upcoming next year, the increase?
I just did, and it's within it's within the
You still gonna have to
Constitution, and yes, we will. We'll put out notification that the dues increase will be with CO7 Step 1 in July of 2019. Any other questions? All right, guys, thank you very much for coming. Gals, appreciate it, and hopefully everybody gets the information they need from the internet. Thank you.